Hello everybody, this is International Master Robert Ris for ChessCastle, and in this video series we are going to discuss the very fashionable opening, the Vienna Gambit, or actually it's the Vienna opening, but we are going to talk about a very special Gambit which is very popular nowadays, and it's posing quite some trouble. Let's have a look, let's dive straight into the action and see what is going to be our topic of this video series. So I start with a slightly unusual move order because we are going to follow a special game. But basically we start with the Queen's Gambit declined, Knight c3, and of course this can go still in either way. Semi-Slav, classical Queen's Gambit declined, anything, it's still possible here. But after d takes c4 we get the Vienna. Principled continuation is to play e4, and black follows up with the move bishop to b4. Interesting move because white is occupying the center and black is trying to challenge it, and well, main lines have been always considered to be bishop g5. There's a mass of theory there which I would like to avoid by playing the move bishop takes c4. For many years this was considered to be let's say a harmless continuation because black is able to capture the pawn on e4, central pawn, thanks to the pin on the king with the knight. So this is a very challenging continuation. I will tell you more about it in the upcoming videos. But let me point out that black is actually practically forced to take. If you're not going to take on e4, you basically give up the center for free development. Of course, you probably would be surprised as there are not many games played with that. There's no theory that much. But in any case, it gives free play. So common sense should prevail, and it gives white great opportunities building up an attack. So principled continuation is to take on e4, and that's going to be our topic of this video series. And I think I can call myself an expert in this field because I've played it twice against grandmasters, didn't get any more opportunities, but I can tell you that I would have repeated the lines I'm mentioning here. I believe that even though objectively speaking black is probably doing not too bad, it's practically very unpleasant to play. That's what I can say from my own experience. So I would like to share some ideas I've come up with myself. I will present the theory in those lines. And before we get to the main lines, I will make you aware of the sidelines possible for both sides. So castling kingside is the critical continuation. And here black is at crossroads. There are a couple of options now. White is threatening to take the knight, so black has to make a decision to take the knight either with the knight himself or with the bishop, or retreat to f6. And well, after taking on c3 there's also the other question, will you take the second pawn? So let's start with the least common continuation, which is the move bishop takes c3. I believe taking with the knight is the main line, and for good reason. I will show you why. Because after b takes c3, I believe that black's position becomes quite critical. Reason is that after giving up the dark squared bishop, the white bishop from c1 is able to go to a3 and make life difficult for the king in the center. So we will have a look at the consequences after knight takes c3, but let me first show you a rapid game of my two good friends, Simon Williams and Luc van Wely, played in the London Rapid 2014. Black didn't dare to take the pawn on c3, went castling kingside, but after queen to d3, other moves are possible as well. I believe that the absence of the dark squared bishop is going to be felt in many lines. White's position is easy to play. He has already developed a lot of pieces and is ready to bring more pieces towards the king side in order to set up an attack. Now you would have wished a bishop would have been on e7 to unpin. It's difficult to get rid of this pin. You don't want to move the queen without allowing double pawns on f6. So knight bd7 is common, and let's just have a look at how white's play is. And that's very typical for this line, I would say. There are not too many forcing lines, but white has a space advantage, lead in development, and black is actually struggling to find adequate counterplay. So don't panic when you're a pawn down, just make sure more pieces are getting into play, centralized, and then from there on you can look for opportunities against the black king. Simon Williams, great attacking player, is crushing strong Grandmaster Luc van Wely. b6 is played, and well, couple of options here. Knight e5 was played by Simon Williams, but perhaps queen e3 is even stronger. For example, if you would go c5, then I would like to play knight to e5, and things are a little bit unpleasant, or very unpleasant. I can imagine that sacrifices like knight takes f7 are possible. Look at the white pieces, they are very nicely placed, concentrating on the e6 square, so this looks dangerous, while you cannot really play a move like knight takes e5 that runs into d takes e5. Terrible threats on the knight, knight is pinned. I'm not sure if there's a way out still, probably not. In any case, white is ready to launch an attack and win material. But in any case, it was a rapid game. Things are not entirely forced. Let's have a look at other moves, just to illustrate the attacking potential white has in this opening. Knight takes e5, rook takes e5. Of course, now d takes e5 would have been less attractive because you allow the exchange of queens. That's what black is aiming for. He's a pawn up. Trading of pieces is favorable for him. So rook takes e5. And now black commits a serious mistake. He should have played the move h6, only to play after bishop h4 the move c5. The reason is that he went for the move c5 right away, but then suddenly there are huge problems. Queen h3, fantastic attacking move, hinting at the pawn on h7, so white is preparing to retreat the bishop to d3. Let's see how that works. Bishop c takes d4, and now bishop d3. Excellent move. You're threatening to eliminate the key defender, threatening checkmate on h7. If you play h6, then you can simply take on h6, and black's king side is just falling apart after g takes h6, queen takes h6. His rook g5 is coming. Of course, after bishop takes h6, you're not forced to take, but what else are you going to do? Bishop takes g7, rook g5, files are getting opened, and you see that those pawns, they simply don't matter. Van Wely desperately played the move h5, trying to solve all the threats against the king side, but look what is happening. You're not going to take on f6, because after take on f6, you take with the queen. Let's say rook takes h5, and now there is still the move g6. Suddenly black is controlling the king side. There's no checkmate on h8, no checkmate on h7, so this is not entirely correct. But Simon comes up with a brilliant move, bishop h7, move I like a lot. The point is that, well, you cannot take with the knight thanks to the pin. If you take with the king, as played in the game, there follows bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, and rook takes h5, and it's game over. If you play king g6, it's just queen g4 with checkmate to follow. So black had to give up the queen, and after rook takes, g takes, and so on. It's queen versus rook and bishop, open king. You will win the pawn back on d4. It's a technical win. It's very nice, but it could have even been more powerful. You see the dark squared bishop is missed in those lines. So instead of castling kingside, knight takes c3 is also another move. You grab a second pawn, but well, look, the pieces are just coming in. Queen b3, the knight is able to return to safe square on d5, it's being well protected. But now bishop a3 is an excellent move. You're 2 pawns down. It kind of reminds me of this old lines in the Italian opening, where you're just sacrificing your pawns on the queen side in order to open the diagonals for your bishops. And I really like white's position here, and it looks incredibly dangerous to me. I would like to show you some examples. For example, if you would play f6 in order to initiate this kind of artificial castling, Then would follow rook ae1, threatening to take on d5. Let's say black stabilizes the knight on d5, but it's the only good piece. The other pieces there are all stuck on the back rank. So knight d2 was played in a game of Cheparinov against Arnold in Biel 2011, but later games have shown that knight h4 is actually a very nice move. Knight h4, great move. Look, if you go king f7, bang, there's knight f5. Great idea. As if you take the knight, I'm going to play rook to e7, queen takes e7, bishop takes e7, king takes e7. Material wise, it's fine for black, but the problem is your king is stuck in the center. Bishop takes d5, c takes d5, rook to e1. Game is not over yet, but look, if you go king d8, it's queen takes d5, knight d7, and the game continues. Queen to f7, threatening queen e7, king goes to c7, rook c1, etc. There is no coordination. The queen is so much stronger than the rook and the two minor pieces, so that it's actually game over. You simply cannot take the knight on f5. You have to play, well, in a game between Debray and Delorme in France. g6 was played, but then there follows knight d6. The knight is entering on d6. It's one of the other main points of bringing in the knight to f5. After king g7, sorry, this is another line. If you go king g7, you play f4. So once again, you see how fantastically actively the white pieces are participating, intending to blow up the king side. f5 is played, and now another great move, g4. Don't care, open the files, activate the pieces. F takes g4, f5. Another great move. If you take g takes f5, now white should have played a move like rook e5, and it's totally positional domination. Dark squares are completely weakened, and that's what we see here. All the pawns are placed on light squares. White is intending to take on d5, eliminating the strongest defensive piece, intending to bring the queen to e3, and you see that the pawns on the king side, they are too far advanced, exposing the king. It offers great attacking play for white. This cannot be recommended. After bishop to a3, black could also play a move like c6 rather than weakening the position with the move f6. But basically there are some issues. Now we are following a game of Daniel Gurovic against Holden Hernandez.